I know I'm getting old because I found out what YOLO and Gangnam Style were on NPR.
What does that
NPR. I found out on NPR.
What does NPR stand for?
National Public Radio. Maybe that's an more LA type joke.
You want to start the interview?
Yeah.
Ladies and
it could have already started.
No, I know. They don't know.
Yeah, they don't know.
But I also want to introduce you.
Oh, yeah, okay.
On this episode of 3 Points, we talk with stand-up comedian and Hollywood actor Josh Fadem.
My favorite Tulsa, Josh Fadem, is with us today.
Did you say that's all your Tulsa guests?
No.
No? Okay.
What? Welcome back to Tulsa, Josh.
Thank you.
You moved back here, how long ago now?
2021-ish?
So,
yeah, shortly after the pandemic.
It was a little late, but I did see you.
Yeah, I guess I've been trying to bump around, figure it out. You know, I was going back and forth to LA a lot.
There's definitely an adjustment.
I'd say mid 2021, and and I go to Oklahoma City a lot.
That's cool. You got
I got a girlfriend. She lives in Oklahoma City, so I'm there a lot.
What, as a comedian? Let's get into some comedy stuff.
Okay.
All right. What is your earliest memory like of comedians, and the first point you can remember? Like that's something you can do when you grow up. I can be that thing.
I don't know, but I do know in elementary school they had a assignment where they're like, you got to do an assignment about what you want to do when you grow up, and I did stand-up comedian, and I wasn't. It wasn't. I would say that because my dad was the type of person like. When I was growing up, he's like, you should be a doctor. You should be a doctor. So I knew what a comedian was, and so I'd always kind of say to appease that, I'd say, I want to be a doctor and a comedian. You know, oh, isn't that cute? He said he wants to be a doctor and a comedian. And I remember I referenced that in my third grade act.
So you knew it was a thing because your dad had already talked about it. You knew.
I knew doctors was a thing because I'd been to the doctor, but I knew prior to that making that joke. I don't know what was my first thing. I mean, I liked funny stuff. I think I watched probably as a kid. I watched a lot of, before third grade. So I obviously knew what comedians were before third grade. I liked comedy movies. I liked, Little Rascals and Laurel and Hardy. And I liked Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Probably Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I don't know that was definitely an early funny movie. Like that was probably the first person I can recall like trying to do an imitation of and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think that comedians were always kind of a thing that was like, that's a comedian. He's a comedian. So that word, I don't remember a time when that word wasn't in my vocabulary.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Because I wondered also about like your biggest comedic influences, if there was somebody from that era or something that you're like, that's the type of shit.
I think it's probably a mishmash of. Mm-hmm. It's an ever evolving mishmash, and I think sometimes you might forget about your influences, and then if you ever feel like your well is dry, then you're like, what was it? What were the influences that I liked so much, a long time ago, and maybe it's time to revisit them. And I used to be more of like when I was in my early 20s, like inhale comedy and stuff like that, and also wear like I love this comedian as a badge, you know what I mean? And I still.
Who are some of those?
In high school, I got real into Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
And like they had those documentaries, like I'm from Hollywood, and I think there was another one at Hollywood Video, and I'm trying to remember what got me into it. I first saw his name because my parents had we had this book that was like called High School, and it was like all these celebrities and their pictures from high school, and they had all these sections, and one was the comedian section. It was like, I know who that is, I know who that is, I know who that is, and then it said Andy Kaufman, and I said, who's that? And my mom said, he's a comedian, he died. And I was like, well, what's his deal, and then so I think I might have I never watched Taxi or anything, but anyway, I remember in high school getting really into Andy Kaufman and thinking like, this is funnier than anything. And, there's the shtick associated with him, but more than anything, looking back, I think there's the shtick of like the prank element, the breaking the fourth wall element, which I responded very well to. But I also think that the characters that he did were very funny. Like he could have been a character actor. He could have been a really funny. I feel like he would probably have his own show today if he were, a young guy today.
And he only had kind of a handful of them, right? I mean, he had Foreign Guy, Elvis.
I think when you go down the deep dive, there's even more character. Sometimes it's like the wrestling.
Tony Clifton.
Yeah, Tony Clifton, but like the wrestling persona.
He seemed so much himself doing the wrestling. He was just an amped up.
But you think? I think like when he did the thing like you don't know that stuff.
It's a little Tony Clifton in that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but who knows? We don't know that was the mystery of Andy, right?
The mystery of Andy.
What is the true self?
Well, how will we ever know what the real Andy was? Can we ever find out? We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Maybe Bob Zamuda knows.
Is he still alive?
I don't know him. I just was making fun of him because I always feel like there's so much. There's also a lot of documentaries about like the magic and curiosity of Andy. We never knew. Have you seen these documentaries? I feel like there's a lot of documentaries where like we just didn't know if he was putting us on or not. We just had no idea.
We just thought he was weird.
I don't know. I'm like I got some instinct that it's like I bet he. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate.
Well, yeah, but you think.
What do I know? Who the hell am I?
Well, you think about people like that in your life, and you think, well, that's kind of funny. He's probably just doing it to fuck.
He's
with
doing
people.
a bit, yeah.
But he's rather than just.
Do you like to do that?
On it.
F with people, screw around, do pranks. I'm not a big prank guy. I'm not a big.
I know what
pranker.
NPR is.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, were you doing a bit up with me?
Not a bit. Not to me. I just I can.
Well, but when you said what's NPR?
Yeah, I was. I know what NPR is.
But so were you doing a bit when you said you did?
Because
I heard you go NPR. What's that? And so I was like, maybe you didn't know what NPR is. And so I started explaining it. But now looking back, I'm like, you know what NPR is, but I didn't go. What's NPR? I didn't say. Or I'll tell you what NPR is when you said, "What's NPR?" What?
I know what a bit is now, but I remember hanging out with you in L.A. and hanging out at a comedian's party with Robert and us, and someone saying, "Are you doing a bit?" And like, I didn't know what a bit was. I mean, I know what a bit was.
I don't remember that
sketch comedy.
Yeah,
rather not you're in that moment in the conversation, but I
yeah,
don't think of it that way.
You don't think of
like fucking around when you fuck around with your friends and you joke around and stuff. I don't think of it as a bit.
Right, like that language. You're doing a bit. Yeah, there's also a funny comedian vernacular that Evan Hughes and I sometimes make fun of, where it's like, yes, I'm working on a bit in the green room, and I work clean, but some people I know, they work blue, but I got a tight five, all this. So I got a bit, and I got to make sure I tag my bit.
Oh, your minutes, your tight five.
Yeah, how's your tight five? You working on your tight five? How many bits you got? How many tags you got for your bits?
What's a tag?
How many punchlines? Tags, it's just comedian talk.
I know, but what's it specifically? What is that?
Well, you got your setup, right?
Yeah. Where you're like, tag as you come back around to
and then
it.
Then you got your punchline.
Yeah.
And then, so you're like, I can't think of a joke.
Later you reference it. At the
and then you got your setup. Hey, so you hear the thing about the thing? And then you got your punchline. Well, the thing is, it's a thing. Mm-hmm. And then you get the laugh on that. And then you go, but I guess the thing is the thing. And then that's a little kind of an extra joke, And sometimes the tag gets even a bigger laugh than the punchline.
Dig it.
Yeah. Comedian shop talk, teaching. Pedagogy.
What is the term for the thing? Like
John Carpenter's The Thing?
Dave Chappelle does it really well, where at the end of his entire set, he'll tie back to that joke he said at the or something at the beginning. Is there a term for
a button? A callback?
Maybe a callback.
A callback? A button? A closer?
Nice.
Well, I guess like
callback.
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. Probably it's a callback. You do a little tiny call. Probably they call it a callback. Mm-hmm. But I suppose it could be a callback and a button, don't you think? You could put a button on your closer, and that button could be a callback.
A button's an ender.
Sometimes a button is like a nice thing that ties it up, like you said. When you said ties it up, I thought
a bow on
button.
It.
Yeah. I mean, you can always change the. I think it'd be funny if you start, talking to comedians who talk like that and just making stuff up. Yeah, like I need a new nozzle for that one.
It's gonna need a new nozzle.
It's gotta need. That's a good bit, but it needs a new nozzle.
If you want to keep it at 10.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get it to a hard 10. Yeah. I got a tight 5, but I need a hard 10.
Well, you'll be hard pressed.
Yeah. Well, I need a new frog presser in that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, because the last one broke.
Yeah. Oh, well, my earn bucket is not quite working in my act right now, so I've got to get my earn bucket a little bit.
Have you Patreon?
A little bit smoother. Yeah.
Patreon.
Yeah. And Patreon is a term that refers to joke structure.
Patreon
as opposed to So I got this great joke, and there's a Patreon right there in the middle of it, but I got to figure out how to iron it out more.
Oh, definitely, man. You're gonna have to starch that before you press.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man, that joke you told on stage tonight, nice and starched.
It was well crisp.
Yeah, that was crisp.
Like a fresh pair of 501 jeans, fresh from Denver cleaners.
Fresh from Denver cleaners, not Yale cleaners.
High starch.
I also, there's also comedian language where people are like, you murdered out there.
Killed it.
You killed it. You murdered.
Musicians say that too.
You killed it. Yeah, I mean, you killed it. That's a classic. That's a classic. But I feel like in the past, 10 plus years, I would hear more. He murdered. He absolutely murdered.
Chopping heads.
Yeah.
Chopping heads.
Chopping heads, taking names.
Cutting off titties and chopping off heads. And
Yeah.
Just leaving them face melted. It's going to get to where comedian jargon is more
Charlie
like
Chaplin, Buster Keaton.
Just
I like those guys too.
Just head choppers.
I was finishing answering a question that you asked.
The influences. I like the Charlie.
Yeah, I watched a lot
definitely
of
Charlie Chaplin and the slapstick.
Yeah.
Hey, slapstick, is it making a comeback?
I don't know.
Never left.
I don't know
I think it's, in terms of public perception of what makes people giggle. Like, it seemed like for a bit
what are
we've
the
been
trends? You're asking me what the trends are?
It seems like for a bit we've been in a thing where like everybody thinks they're too smart to laugh at goofy shit, slapstick and goofy comedy. And is it making a comeback?
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
We shall see.
Yeah. I mean, what made you think to ask that? What made you? What'd you hear?
I saw a Gen. Well, I don't know what Gen, but a youngster.
You know what a Gen?
Probably at Gen Z. I think he was probably Gen Z YouTuber that was doing some skit-based YouTube comedy videos that were like, I was like, this is slapstick.
It's kind of real sticky stuff.
This is corny. Yeah.
Like corny? Do you think all slapstick is corny?
No.
Or this particular one was corny?
Certainly would say that there's slapstick that probably defines corniness, but this was like, it was corny and a little bit slapstick. That was my comment when I was.
You're like this. Oh, did you actually type that out?
No. My daughter was watching it.
Oh,
it was one.
And you thought?
So I went. Yeah, I didn't pick it.
It's kind of corny.
No, like it's funny.
Corny in a good way.
Yeah, this is.
See, I never heard corny in a positive connotation.
Oh, that's too bad.
Is that how you do?
You would think of weird that way? Don't you think of weird in a positive connotation?
Yeah, I do.
And bizarre?
Or silly,
and bizarre,
or
and silly?
even stupid. That is so stupid. Like people say that.
But
that
yes,
is so
I got
stupid.
there. I got there.
But
the norms don't get it, and I do.
Yeah. No, so stupid. Yeah, a lot of comedian people are stupid.
Then
so
I'm right
stupid.
on track.
But I haven't heard corny.
It's corny, like corny.
I'm not taking offense because you didn't say something I did was corny. But in general, if someone said that's corny,
no, you're right.
Doesn't
it like that?
Sounds
no, you said it like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess that you could say that's hysterical.
No, that was sarcastic.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's
insincere. Sounds
I can spot
insincere.
that.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I guess the other thing is funny.
But I'm guilty of saying funny deadpan when something actually is funny.
Oh, right. It didn't elicit a laugh from you.
Definitely.
But
That was funny.
Yeah.
That was funny.
That was fun. Yeah. I've done that too. That's fun. Yeah. Sometimes I'll see something and go,
that's hilarious.
That's funny.
That's hilarious.
You thought of that. I didn't think of that. You thought of that. That's funny.
Oh.
What's that? What do we got next on the agenda?
Now, you not master of fearless comedy, but you said if you could talk about it. It wasn't you that said that. It was Evan that said he's one of the most fearless comics I know.
Okay.
And that's something I strive for with my own shit. And
okay.
So what the hell does it mean
what does it mean to
be a fearless comic in 2025?
I don't know that I can speak from the throne with the crown
There's
of
no
the
throne.
king of fearlessness.
Not
of
as
comedy.
not as a guru, but as a guide.
As a guy who does comedy and has an awareness that
Can you be fearless comic now? Can you do it? Not have to live in Texas?
Can one?
Can you do it outside of Texas?
Me?
Can anyone?
Texas.
Yeah.
Why Texas? You mean like Austin? Like the scene? Because the scene migrated to Austin because that's they're so
because they're allowed.
Is that their
they're
thing?
allowed to say stuff that offends people?
Bad boys. I don't know. I never pay attention to like you talk about that. I try not to pay attention to the trends in comedy. Mm-hmm. And that's probably for better or worse. I don't know. But I just never, and so if that's that, and also everything is so fractured now that there's so many subsections of comedy that, and I feel like I've always been kind of doing a similar type of comedy. I've been doing a similar type of comedy since I started. And there were trends then, and then they morph and change, and then there's politics get in, and then politics moves into one circuit, and then moves into another one, and then there's a certain, like maybe there's what they called alt comedians, and then there's what they called, club comedians,
Wow.
and then what's called kind of more like, broy road comedians, and I don't know that those terms even were like, because maybe some of those guys who are saying we are we're the say whatever you want people, maybe they were at some point could have been aligned with alt, but alt doesn't quite mean the same thing because the industry has changed. But then there's also there's also, I had another observation. Let me and for a second for me to finish it. So, but there's also like trends now. Like I know that there's a big clown trend going on. Like there's a big scene, a trend. I shouldn't say
like
trend because I don't want to offend
clown?
anyone who loves it. Because there's a lot of people I respect who love it. But yeah, it's got tenets of stuff that I always enjoy, but I don't personally say that I do clown or anything like that. But
You mean old traditional? What do we think of as clowns? But
it's
modernized.
well, there's an art form called clown.
Okay.
And I think it's different from mime.
Sure,
And there are a few teachers in LA and New York who, I would say maybe 8-9 years ago started kind of coming around and teaching classes and stuff. And then there's a few people out there who do that, who do stuff and call it clown. They say I'm a clown, or I have a clown philosophy, or whatever. I don't, but I'm more into context, and like, so like I like to be a stand-up and go on a show where there's other stand-ups, and then their stand-up might be one thing that seems one way, and then I think, how can my stand-up like hit some notes that I don't think I've seen hit this night yet. So the fearless element, the fearless question, that part, what was the part you said about though, like saying what you want? The fearless part.
I don't know. Maybe the two aren't. Maybe the two don't go hand in hand.
I think that there's some, because some people will always say like, you're a comedian? Oh man, that sounds like the hardest thing in the world. I find that like there's more, versus for me, I don't pay attention to trends. I try to pay attention to my own strengths and weaknesses.
What do they mean by that when they say that? What are they talking about?
That sounds so hard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do you
It's
think?
hard to get up and
They
talk
probably
in front of the people, or it's hard,
telling jokes in front of people,
or it would be hard for them to not offend people, or it could mean a lot of different things.
I guess it could mean a lot of different things. The way I always take it is that they think that must be so hard to go up there in front of people and stand in front of people, and it must be so hard to go up there and tell a joke and bomb, or tell a joke and not have it go well, or try that out. And I would say that like I noticed through my years of doing it that I have strengths where sometimes I'm really good at one thing that I've focused on, and then maybe I don't focus on that for a few years or a while, and then it gets not quite as sharp, but I focused on a different thing.
To my elements of your show or of your kind of your performance and things like that.
So, yeah, like so, or even like for example, I used to run a lot of shows in LA, and so I'd host most of them. And when I would host, I would just riff and make stuff up and spend a lot of time on the stage at the beginning. It was my show, so the stakes were like, I could do whatever I want. No one, and I would book, people, and that was nice because I could just ramble and find jokes and riff and practice crowd work. I don't do that now. Really, I don't have a regular show that I go up and I feel like no one's watching, no one's filming with their phone, no one is looking at their phone. It's just this me in the back in this weird back room goofing off, by myself, and so therefore, when I do stand up regularly, I'm not quite as loose as I feel like I was when I was doing that. Did you get what I'm saying?
You have more your shit you want to say?
I would do. Well, I would say I have like what I've written.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, and then on every Sunday I host a show. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I go up and do a local set somewhere. When I was hosting that show for long stretches of time every week, those shows that I would go do my prepared set for would wind up being much looser and more free. And I'd get a joke in the middle. I'd tell a joke, and in the middle of the joke, it would occur to me to start improvising something funny. I don't know that like that strength is as strong now as it was then, but I know I could get it back. Yeah. Same with like, sometimes I feel like, I used to write more jokes. I used to write better jokes. Well, it's like, if you don't write, then you're not writing, but, or sometimes the jokes just come to you, So I think in terms of like, for me, like muscles, I got real good at doing this one time, Well, I focused on doing this instead. And so I got a little better at that. I still got the ability to do this. Right. I just didn't focus on that. I got to focus on that. And then, that's getting a little stronger. I'm getting a little better. Same with like, I used to do a lot of the physical comedy stuff. I don't do that as much. Part of that's like,
you can break yourself off.
What's that?
You can break yourself off.
Yeah. I could hurt myself. Yeah. I broke my bone. I broke my wrist once, twice. So I don't do that stuff as much. I'm 44, you know what I mean? But I saw an old clip, we're both trying to be online more with video clips. And so I was like, well, I should put some old stand-up clips online. Let's try to find some videos. And I saw one. I was like, I was pretty good at that physical comedy stuff. But now I'm like, that's okay. I got other strengths. Even if I'm not good at, if I can't fall off a stage or feel more apprehensive, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you'd fall face forward and everybody goes, ow, because like you didn't look like you slowed yourself down at any point.
That was the thing. I didn't know.
That's how.
I kind of had some instinct about how to fall properly. I learned it, but I didn't always know what I was doing.
Didn't always put it into play.
So I did, So sometimes like I was not. You
didn't trigger it right on time. You got to trigger that thing. But I don't know.
The physical, I just wasn't. I don't think I think I'm not trained. I'm not a clown. I'm not a stunt person. So I would really just like
hurt yourself,
take the fall, And I thought I can tank it, doesn't hurt. And you start to learn from doing it over and over how to fall correctly. But like, I guess it's that thing. It's like if you're not falling on the regular, I'm forgetting how to hold my body.
Yeah.
I try to get out of the habit of saying, you do, like you or whatever.
Did you ever bust your glasses? Falling on your face?
Did I bust my glasses?
Yeah.
And that's how my phone was fixed.
Man, I saw you do at least one or two really hard face falls. That was like, damn, did he like?
I think I might have cut my eyebrow once when I was real young.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I did it like but I never really. Yeah, I think the worst was I broke my wrist one time.
Surgery scar. I see it right there.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, you talked a little bit about kind of what getting into it, but would you drop a little bit of like what's good ways? How did you get into doing stand-up comedy? What's some? Advice.
How did I get?
You can either speak experience points or what you would do differently. But I know there's going to be people who are into or thinking about wanting to do stand-up.
Who might like
watch this video and like say, well,
when I've heard that question or what I usually
what's your spiel?
Well, there's my story and there's my spiel. My story is that when I moved to LA, I was 20 years old. This is like almost 25 years ago. I kind of didn't know what to do. I had some social anxiety. I went to the Groundlings. I took classes at the Groundlings.
That's
that really
improv.
Yeah, it's a comedy sketch improv theater, and that really kind of helped me come out of my shell, and it just helped in a lot of ways. I mean, I think that's the same thing. It's like I said, there's like a clown scene happening, and maybe at one point it was an improv scene, and I kind of like. I've always tried to be someone who dipped into all of it. You know what I mean? Though, like I said, things are more fragmented, and then there's all these political, it's like, the political stuff. It's like, well, if you're either on one side or another, I don't know. I just try to do my own thing. I started doing the groundlings, and I was doing improv, and I liked doing the improv. And then I had some friends from the improv class who did do stand-up, and they were like, you should try stand-up, you should try stand-up. So I tried, and I remember it bombed real bad. And I thought, I'll never do that. And that was like 2002. And then I said, 8 months later, I was at a restaurant, and this waiter who like knew I was kind of a funny guy and knew I did like groundlings classes, he said, I used to do stand-up. You want to, I'm putting a show together. You want to host it? And something in me said like, say yes. Right. You know, like I was scared. There's an example of being fearless. I was scared, but something was like, because I bombed so bad the first time, but I thought, I'm 23. Oh God, I've got the fear of life in me because I'm not going to college. I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
I'm not going back to Tulsa.
I don't want to go back to Tulsa yet. So something said, say yes. You have to say yes. You have to do it. You have to figure something out. And so when I did that, I kind of came up with a character. I wrote a whole bunch of jokes. They were all really stupid. Some of them were almost intentionally stupid. And
Andy Kaufman.
Kind of. And I think that was probably
that was it kicking in.
And I did a character who told the jokes and thought they acted like every joke was killing. So the joke became more that I was like, wow, you know, as opposed to the joke itself being good. And that started getting laughs.
That's a load off.
And it was like, I was like, wow, I'm getting laughs because I'm acting. It's because of how I'm acting, you know, and I like acting. So the acting, and it was like a character, you know, and some of the jokes I think were kind of funny, but like, you know, funny and like, that's so weird.
Oh my gosh, that's corny.
That's so corny. That is corny. It's corny. That would be a positive way to sell corny. Corny. But so that was sort of like, as soon as I got the laughs doing that, I said, I'm going to tell everyone I'm a comedian now. That's what, you know, when you're 23 and people are like, what do you do?
You gotta say something.
What are you?
You gotta have something.
I got to have something to say. So I was a comedian. I'm a comedian. Not going to college because I'm a comedian. And then, you know, and then UCB came to LA.
Upright Citizens Brigade.
Yeah.
Franklin? On Franklin?
Yeah. And so I was kind of in the first wave of that.
Fun.
Of the LA UCB. And, you know, I didn't finish the Groundlings program because there was a lot of wait lists at the time. And then UCB came to town. But so there was two parts to that answer. So that was my story.
Experience, the advice.
Yeah. And then over time, and I could probably use some of this advice myself, you know, because I think after the pandemic, during the pandemic and maybe even for a year or two, I kind of took time off from performing. I was like, well, I'm just going to try to focus on doing acting and stuff like that. And, but then I, you know, through like Evan Hughes, who was very diligent about trying to get me to do more live stuff, I have started doing more live. Same with, and starting my own podcast and all that kind of stuff. You know, I totally tuned podcasts out for years. I was like, I don't know.
The term podcast for me does.
Yeah, it sounds so new.
The term podcast doesn't have anything. It feels like I don't have anything to do with what I'm doing. I'm not
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
It's just a video interview. It's just an interview. It's just a sit down and talk. But yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
that's the word for it.
And there's and you know, like stand up, there are many ways you can interpret what that form is. There's many ways you can mess with the form. You know what I mean? So that's sort of what I've been trying to do with mine. But so advice about people who want to try it. What I would say is when people say, oh, I couldn't do that, or I'm interested in doing that, I always assume what I hear that means is they're like, how do I start an act? How do I do a show? You know, well, you can look up where the local open mics are. Or if say you're somewhere like Tulsa and you know someone like Evan Hughes, you might tell someone like Evan Hughes, you know, there's people like Evan out there who run shows. Some of them might be a little more gatekeepery. I find that Evan is very open and he's willing to give people a chance if they're trying stuff out. But so, you know, find someone who books a show, find a community, find people who have similar interests. If you're trying to figure out, well, how do I write the jokes? How do I put together a type 5? Come up with a couple of funny stories that happened in your life, something you got a unique perspective on, like, here's my opinion about this. You know, try to write a few one-liners, you know, if you can. I would say if you have an impression of a family member, do that. That doesn't hurt, you know? I mean, can you do an impression of your mom?
Everybody can do an impression of a family member.
Yeah, well,
and who's going to say they don't act like that?
Yeah. Who's the family member you can do an impression of?
For each of them, but
Yeah,
you know,
an aunt, an uncle, or something like that, you know.
know.
And so you might say, I got an aunt or uncle who's
Yeah.
like this, you know. Just anything to fill the space for that first time. And then you try it, and maybe it goes great. And then if it goes great, then the next time you do it, it might not go great. Or you might have been operating off pure adrenaline of like, I'm going to keep the energy up, you know. And then you bomb.
And then you bomb.
Like,
That's a bomb.
and you're like, why did I bomb? You know, it was so funny the last time. And then you got to do it again and figure out, you know, don't give up on that material if you think it's funny.
Oh, really?
There's something there if you think it's funny, you know. Sometimes, I don't know, there's different processes. Some people sit and they write it all out and they say, this is going to be my script, and they memorize it and they recite it. Some people say, I'm going to talk about, you know, zebras. I got something to say about zebras. Okay, so zebras, these guys are, you know, and then they find it on stage, you know, because they know there's something funny, but they don't know what it is.
But that's enough cue to get you started, and then you just riff from there.
That's a kind of a lazy way to do it, and that's kind of how I usually do it. You know what I mean? That's if I have access to enough stage time, you know, to be like, I'm going to just get up on stage and just keep trying this out, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you've internalized a lot of this. You're just speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff that you've said 100 times. Or,
Yeah. So that's the key, I think, of starting doing stand-up. Think about some funny things you've said 100 times.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, some social jokes that you make, some funny observations, a story about a family member, you know, a story about something that happened to you. I hear a lot of people tell, like, one time I took a shit, and it's kind of like, we don't want to sit through this.
There's a lot of shit and diarrhea and vomit and jack off and
everyone's got a story about that, and you know, if you got to fill it up with something, go for it. But it's weird. The diarrhea is not so funny either. But I don't know. The vomit, I don't mind. A vomit story, I could live with.
Well,
you know, but
any
I feel
real
like,
story can be funny. I mean,
I
mean,
but sometimes you know, people get up there and they're like, so one time I pooped, you know, and it's like, I don't know. I'm not trying to piss on poopers, okay? I'm not trying to piss on anybody or discourage anybody.
Man, that reminds me. So I got one kind of last thing, and I don't really go too deep, philosophical, or sensitive, but this is my, if anything, the hard question, because I want to talk about.
Oh, I may not have an answer.
Well, it's not real hard.
Okay.
But that you've worked in a lot of TV shows under some really legendary sketch comedy guys. That I know of, like the Bob Odenkirk with Mr. Show.
Yeah.
And Trevor Moore with The Whitest Kids You Know.
Yeah.
Which is better, Whitest Kids or Mr. Show?
Oh, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not gonna answer that. Trevor was like a really, really close friend of mine.
Yeah.
And
would you mind chatting a bit about time experience with Trevor? Because I'm a big fan of Trevor and Whitest Kids. In fact, in many ways, obsessed with the show. I watch their live stream episodes nowadays just to relax in the afternoons.
That's cool. Yeah. And Bob's a good friend of mine. You know, I keep in touch with him, and he's, you know, but I don't have a best. I don't pick a best or
that's
whatever,
why I said it was the hardest question. That was more of a that was a bit.
Yeah, that was a bit.
But
I try not to be a ranker.
But no, absolutely.
That's a different philosophical discussion. In general, ranking, you know, or ranking yourself, you know, it's just not. It's not helpful for you. It's not helpful, I think.
And for those who don't know Mr. Show and Whitest Kids You Know, these are pretty much, in my book, the top sketch comedy shows that are ever made.
Yeah.
Because really at the height of like just like how much more can we push the envelope?
Yeah.
Kind of mess with people, offend different people, teach people stuff in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like there was so much Whitest Kids You Know that I was like, oh, dude, I don't know. Like maybe they took him out. Because he's telling, because Trevor talk about 9/11 like a long time ago, 10 years ago. Trevor talked about a lot of stuff in Whitest Kids You Know.
Yeah.
And not like it was, you know, it was made into jokes and written into the script. But he talked about a lot of government secrets and things like there's a whole JFK stuff segment. Sketch about the JFK assassination, a whole segment about the
brilliant guy.
Reagan, the Reagan shooting one with the
Yeah,
dog.
I'm in that sketch.
Yes, you're in the end.
I'm in one of the Reagan sketches.
No, that was
I was
yeah,
just visiting, and
you're in the end of it celebrating.
Yeah,
and they got him.
Mr. Reagan or something like that. Yeah.
So, man, what a fun time. Like, talk a little bit
So
about that.
I was in New York and
met them during their first season?
before they even had the show, I was in New York and I was doing stand up. I was just out there, visiting, and I had just been doing it for a year, and I was going to local open mics and that sort of thing, and trying to find shows to get booked on with my 1 year experience, Cool. And there was one random guy I met at a party in LA who had this thick Boston accent, and his name was, I guess you say his name is so common. I'm not saying anything bad about him. He's a good guy. His name was John Ford, and I was like the director, and I was like, I'm a stand-up, and I'm going to New York. And he's like, you gotta look up this group called the Widest. I can't do a Boston accent. He's like, you gotta look up this group called the Widest Kids You Know. My friend Sam is in the group.
So Sam Brown.
Yeah, Sam Brown, and who's also like one of my best friends. And so Sam. I was like, he's like, you gotta look up Sam. And this was the early days of Google, and I don't even know if they had a website or what. I just looked at it and was like, oh, what can I find? Why? It's because they play at pianos. Okay, what's pianos? How do I find pianos?
Oh, so they were a live sketch comedy group
They did a
first.
live show. They did a live show
they
at a bar called Pianos in New York City every week for a couple of years before they got a TV show.
And before they started doing stuff on video and filming it.
They were early people who were making videos. They all met. I would say most of them met at SVA Film School.
Yeah, I heard them talk about it a little bit. I don't know.
And so then they would make these videos, Trevor had the Hitler rap, and they had the VH1 TV movie about EMF. I remember these were the kind of the
some of the early ones.
The early they were just online videos, It was even maybe predates YouTube.
In the beginning,
it was just on their website. They had a Widest Kids WidestKids.com website. And But so anyway, so I went to the show and I watched the show and I thought it was really funny. And then afterwards, I think I walked up to Darren and I said, is Sam here? And they were like, he was, oh, well, I think he left, And then, they're like, well, but who are you? Who can I help you? I go, oh, well, I'm a friend of Sam's. I met Sam's friend, and he said to talk to Sam. I'm a stand-up. I'm visiting from LA, and I'm wondering if I could do the show next week. And they were like, oh. Yeah, and they took that as there's some comedian from LA. There's some comedian from LA. Well, we have to, okay.
John Ford sent him.
Yeah, John Ford. Sam's friend said that there's a comedian from LA, Sam. And so I don't know if I called someone the next day or what, but they were like, okay, come back next week. You're on the show. It was really that informal. And, no fake, maybe MySpace existed,
It would have been MySpace. Dude.
But, it would have been MySpace, and lame-os would be on Friendster. But so I went back the next week, kind of with that uncertainty, am I on this show? And anyway, the short version, I could stretch the story out. I remember them being like, "You're going to go on after us," and me being like, couldn't get my head around that. It made no sense. Why am I going to follow them? It's their show. I'm not going to open for them or whatever. Well, have you closed? And I just had never they're opening for me. That doesn't make any sense. I think they thought I was a bigger deal than I was. So I remember sitting there, they're all on stage doing their sketches, and I'm watching them and they're killing, and I'm just sort of they're going to forget me. They're going to forget they told me to go up, and then sure enough, they didn't. But I went up and I had probably for that time, the best set that I'd ever had. It went super well. And then afterwards we all hung out and became really good friends. And then, so I remember Trevor sitting and just talking with Trevor for a long time, just about comedy and stuff like that. And then I would say, a year or so later, I didn't really stay that much in touch with them, but they reached out and wanted me to go on tour with them. Oh. And then I think maybe they were starting their show, and so I got in touch. Maybe I came back out there and did another show with them.
Yeah, season 1's in New York.
Anyway, so I just became really close with all of them. Stayed in touch with them, and then they moved to LA, and Trevor and I did some live shows together. I mean, he was just such a funny writer, and it's such a fast and easy, effortless writer, and he had so many of those natural. So those, I've talked about the different muscles, and for me, I have my different strengths. Like, he had so many of those strengths naturally. Like, he could naturally sit down and crank out a thing. I mean, he could just, and the ideas would always come, and he could also sit there and just be kind of like quiet and smirk, and enjoy a thing. And then he'd have like one little, thing that would like, make you burst out laughing or make everyone burst out laughing. And I don't know, there's a video that we did for this show. We made a couple of them. The funniest one is online. It's on my YouTube channel where we did this show, and he had this, it was his idea that we would make each other, a meal.
Yeah,
for the
make
video.
each other a meal.
Have you seen this one?
Yeah, we'll play a clip right here.
Yeah.
Dinner is served.
Wow. Cool. Here we go. It's not bad.
It's not bad?
No, it is bad.
Oh, man.
No, it's not good.
Hey, soft. What? What's the matter? Oh, I forgot to ask if you're allergic to anything. Chase it with some Coke. Is that really vomit that he's vomiting? Okay. It's good.
Good?
No. Oh, waiter, there are a few bones in this. That is good. Let me just wash it down a little bit. That's a...
We make the most disgusting thing we can think of, but we don't tell each other what it is.
Yes.
And it's weird because at the time, it's like, I'm not a big prank guy, but it's like he had the perfect balance of sensibility. He knew how to like the thing that we did, and at the time I was like, well, I don't, like I would be hesitant to be seen like sitting and laughing about a joke. That's almost a little too like, hey, well, guys hanging out, is how I would have thought of it. But it was like,
are you talking about when you're eating it and it's hard to contain your laughter?
And I can't laugh. Yeah, and I'm trying to.
But it actually makes it more fun. It makes it more
I
endearing.
know. That's what makes the video
Yeah.
is that he got me so hard with that joke. Like I remember eating this.
Yours was fish and Skittles, right? Or no?
Yeah, he's like, you like fish? Josh likes
Raw
fish. I'm
fish.
gonna make Josh a fish.
That looks undercooked a little.
That looks undercooked?
A little bit.
Fish
And he
Skittles.
put the fish. He cooked the fish. The thing that got
Those
me
are
was
cooked.
he puts gum in there, and
He's
I take a bite in there, and there's Skittles, but it's like I'm like as soon as I realize, oh my god, I taste the like mint winter green flavor or whatever. I'm like,
Is that gum?
is that gum? And I made him just a bunch of shit that just made him throw up. But so I don't know. I mean, that video I feel like is a good encapsulation of my friendship with him that I feel lucky to have gotten to have. You know what I mean?
No kidding. He's one of the
Yeah.
greats, man. He's a really
Yeah.
cool guy, special guy. And that's
Yeah.
nice, man.
Yeah.
That's nice. Is there anything you want to like talk about that you want to plug or talk about?
I mean, just
Certainly,
like so. Is that
drop-
podcast? Here Come the Details.
Yeah, drop some info on that.
Here Come the Details. Follow at Here Come the Details on anything. TikTok, which probably only got another few days of.
TikToks.
I hate it though.
I posted one video and it got guideline, but it was about
Me
nothing.
too.
I was like, it was about nothing.
Yeah, and they're like, it's either low quality or violates. Yeah, everything I post it says this can't go in there, and so it's like, what? I mean, so I put on my TikTok bio like, I guess I'm a TikTok bad boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like because I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of them have cuss words in them, but still like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I thought it was TikTok was the fun thing was that it's owned by China and we could get away with whatever. That was all.
Yeah,
I was
China,
looking
come on,
forward to.
China, what
Yeah.
you censoring us for, China? Whatever. TikTok. I guess I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Bluesky. I'm on Threadsy. I'm on Insty. At Josh Fadem. At Here Come the Details. HereComeTheDetails.com. It's on Spotify. It's at YouTube. But the stuff, the
Gotcha,
stuff, the
gotcha,
platforms.
gotcha.
But so that podcast and That's kind of the main thing I've been putting my energy toward. There's some acting stuff coming up.
Good. Are you? What can you? Anything you can talk about?
Nothing that I don't like to talk about something unless it's like firmly on the books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. If it's in the can,
there's maybes. There's always maybes. There's always auditions coming. But with the fires and stuff, I don't know what's going on with Hollywood right now. It's really a sad thing. But we don't need to get into that right now for this sake of this discussion.
Man, thanks a lot for doing this with me.
Man, I appreciate you having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Josh Fadem.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well. I don't really have an official closing. This was just a good interview.
Me neither.
And it was good talking
you do
and
need
everything.
one does need a good closer.
Yeah. But thanks for watching, everybody. This was Josh Fadem.
I gotta think of a closer for me.
Yeah, like
The detail, like for here come the details. I gotta learn to be like, well, I think the details are here.
The details
are finally here. Good night. Something like that.
So thanks for watching, everybody. You've been watching 3 Points.
3 Points is what this is called. And so I stopped eating all this stuff and started doing, stopped eating all the sugar.
What was your guilty pleasure? What was the thing you had to cut the
I'm a
most out of?
cookies and ice cream guy, but I also
make you some cookies.
I'm not gonna eat them. I'm not gonna eat them.
I've been working on the cookies, man.
I'm in cookie jail. You like cookies?
So you remember Paradise Bakery up in the Promenade Mall, and they had these little chipper cookies.
Is
and
that
it would come in a bag
the tiny
about
little,
6. Yeah, they were little.
And
you could eat in a bite, or you could make them savor them.
They also have made the cookie cakes.
Yeah, they had cookie cakes, but of course the place downstairs was the cookie cake place. But
so Paradise Bakery is not the same as cookie cake.
well, there was the cookie cake place immediately down beneath it.
Is that so? There's 2 cookie places, is what you're saying?
Well, there was Paradise Bakery that did sandwiches and cookies and baked stuff. They had
okay. I don't remember that. Remember the cool T-shirt shops though?
Yeah, well, I mean,
like
Old Market became the Quickie Mart, which was where I
was
worked.
You worked at Market?
No, I worked at Quickie Mart, which was. The Market was the predecessor of it. It grew up to become the Quickie Mart, the skate shop.
Mart. You said Quickie Mart, and I was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, that's a skate shop," because I don't
It
skate.
is.
But I was like, "Did you work at a Quickie Mart? Like,
Well,
did you work
that's
like a Quick Trip?"
Where I got to know Evan. He would come in getting shoes there.
Oh, okay. But does Evan skate?
He'd get his shoes there. I don't think he skates.
But Promenade, did you remember?
we hung out there.
Well, we're talking. Remember? You remember when we're talking? Remember? Are we talking? Remember over here?
Yeah, we're remembering.
We're talking. Remember?
We go way back, so we're remembering.
Yeah, remember Stussy and Yaga and Massimo shirts?
Yeah.
Remember how that was you had to wear one?
At what point did it become uncool to have a no fear sticker on the
yeah,
head of my drums?
It stayed cool for a while until it didn't. Well, definitely by the time that I would have been you or I would have been able to drive, that's when it would have been not cool to have the no fear sticker. But to have that no fear t-shirt, that'd be pretty cool.
Even better was the guy. It was like a big Eds or big Willies or something. It was like a Big
Johnson
t-shirt.
Yeah, Big Johnson. Liquor up front, poker in the rear. What are some of the no fear quotes? You remember any of the no fear quotes?
No, I just remember the logo having all kinds of different.
My brother,
like either being an American flag or.
My brother had a no fear one that said like, "He who dies with the most toys still dies."
Still dies. That's so
No
extreme. Which it was the '90s, a time for extreme.
Yeah.
Sports
Think
and
about
extreme.
it. No fear. You have toys? Well, you got the most toys? Well, you're gonna die with those toys.
Even if so do this. It's like it's.
So you might as well do it anyway.
Yeah, it's the original
and don't
YOLO.
do it for the toys.
It's the original YOLO.
Yeah, right. It was a less positive. It was a more fatalistic YOLO.
That's Gen X for you.
You know, it's a joke where it's like
there's a lot of NPR listeners.
NPR, yeah. It's like it's like the thing where it's like a Terry Gross interview. Like, you're listening to NPR, and today we're talking about a song called YOLO. Or Pat Morrison. This is Pat Morrison. I'm not sure I know the difference. Maybe these are DJs that I think they probably broadcast anywhere. Anyway,
it was mostly talk radio. They play music.
News, that sort of thing. And they do an interview with.
They do the Tiny Desk. NPR Tiny Desk. They produce.
That's right. Tiny Desk. They get pretty funky, don't they?
It's a big deal.
I don't really watch it.
I like the ones where they're breaking somebody, not like playing.
Oh, like here's this new Chapel Rowan. Didn't they break her?
Maybe.
I think they broke her.
Maybe Chapel can't be broke. I don't know. Maybe she can't be tamed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you guys like impressions?